The weed that outperforms salmon. Why the world's most nutritious plant was erased from your plate. There is a plant with red stems crawling through the cracks in your driveway right now that contains more omega-3 fatty acids per leaf than a piece of wild-caught salmon. There is a plant with red stems crawling through the cracks in your driveway right now that contains more omega-3 fatty acids than salmon. I'm not talking about a pound-for-pound comparison. I am talking about a single leaf. This plant has been feeding humanity for over 4,000 years, surviving the rise and fall of empires. Yet today, the herbicide industry spends billions of dollars to make sure you never learn its name. In 2022, scientists at Yale discovered that this plant does something no other species on Earth can do, a biological feat previously thought to be impossible. While we've been taught to spray it with poison and rip it from our gardens, our ancestors saw it as an essential staple for survival. Before we dive into the mystery of this super plant, tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from, and what is the #1 crop you want to grow for your family's security? By the end of this video, you're going to understand why this plant is the ultimate lazy garden crop, how it can save your heart, and why it might be the only thing left growing when every other crop fails. Stick with me, because near the end, I'm going to show you the specific biological engine inside this plant that makes it virtually unkillable, even in a total drought. We live in a world where food prices are skyrocketing and our supply chains feel more fragile than ever. Most of us have been taught that food is something you buy in a plastic bag at a store, but for most of human history, food was something that grew right at your feet. This shift isn't an accident. We have been conditioned to see the most resilient, nutrient-dense plants as enemies or weeds. Take a look at the history of this specific red-stemmed plant, which we now know as purslane. In 1050 BC, someone in northern Greece carefully stored its seeds in a clay vessel. When archaeologists opened that jar 3,000 years later, they found thousands of tiny black seeds, each barely a millimeter across. The exact same seeds that are likely trying to grow between the stones of your patio today. By the 4th century BC, the famous philosopher Theophrastus was writing detailed cultivation instructions, telling farmers to sow it in April alongside their most essential crops. This wasn't a nuisance, it was a foundational food source. The Roman Empire cultivated it across 3 continents, and medieval Europeans ate it at every single meal. In fact, in the year 1288, when a list was compiled of everything the city of Milan consumed, purslane made the list not as a curiosity, but as a staple. In a moment, I'm going to show you how this plant actually crossed the ocean and fed the people who built our modern world, long before we were told to destroy it. The mystery of purslane deepens when you look at how it traveled the world. Sometime after 1492, it was believed that purslane crossed the ocean with European settlers. But when it was documented in Massachusetts in 1672, archaeologists were stunned to find that it had already been in the Americas for over 2,500 years. Seeds found in Ontario date back to 1350 AD, and in Kentucky, they found evidence from as far back as 800 BC. Native Americans weren't just letting it grow, they were actively cultivating it alongside sunflowers, squash, and other essential crops in the Eastern Agricultural Complex. 2 massive populations, separated by a vast ocean, both independently decided that this plant was essential for life. Why? The answer lies in the incredible nutrition hidden in those thick, juicy leaves. While modern agriculture focuses on calories and shelf life, our ancestors focused on vitality. They knew that eating this weed kept them strong, even if they didn't have the scientific equipment to understand why. Stick with me, because in a moment we'll cover the one crop that can quietly feed your family for decades with almost no work. And it starts with understanding what scientists found when they looked at the blood of the healthiest people on Earth. In 1960, a physiologist named Ansel Keys launched a massive study to understand why some populations lived long, healthy lives while others were plagued by heart disease. He tracked over 12,000 men across 7 countries for 50 years, and the results shattered every nutritional assumption of the time. The farmers on the island of Crete consumed a diet incredibly high in fat, more than 35% of their calories, yet they had the lowest cardiovascular mortality rate ever measured, even lower than Japan. For 20 years, the world credited olive oil for this Mediterranean magic. But in the 1980s, a new team of researchers went back to the original frozen blood samples. They weren't looking for cholesterol this time. They were looking for omega-3 fatty acids. They discovered the cretins had 3 times the omega-3 levels of people in the Netherlands, but they weren't eating massive amounts of fish. They were eating purslane every single day, in salads, in stews, and sautéed in olive oil. Even their chickens and goats ate it, meaning the entire food system was fueled by a plant that grew wild in every field. If this is helping you plan your own survival garden and rethink what a weed is, tap like so more people can see this forgotten wisdom. When Dr. Artemis Simopoulos analyzed purslane in 1992, the data coming back from the lab seemed like a biological error. She found that fresh leaves contained 300 to 400 milligrams of alpha-linolenic acid per 100 grams. To put that into perspective, that is 5 to 7 times more than spinach and 15 times more than iceberg lettuce. It is the richest vegetable source of omega-3 fatty acids ever measured. But the findings got even stranger. Typically, land plants do not produce EPA, which is a marine omega-3 usually found in fish and algae. Yet, purslane makes trace amounts of EPA, a discovery so shocking that other scientists initially questioned if the samples were contaminated. They weren't. This plant also produces 7 times more vitamin E than spinach, 6 times more beta-carotene than carrots, and is packed with melatonin, glutathione, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. It is one of the most nutrient-dense plants ever analyzed by modern science. The power of this nutrition was proven in the Lion Diet Heart Study, which followed 605 patients recovering from heart attacks. Half the group was put on a standard low-fat cardiac diet, while the other half followed a Mediterranean diet rich in purslane, walnuts, and omega-3s. After 5 years, the group eating the purslane-rich diet had 70% fewer deaths from all causes. The results were so dramatic that the study was stopped early because it became unethical to keep the control group on the standard diet. You have to ask yourself, why is a plant this powerful not in every grocery store? Why are we taught to call it a weed? The answer involves a massive industry that relies on you buying your health in a bottle rather than picking it from your yard. While the nutritional profile of purslane is world-class, its survival mechanics are what truly make it a superplant. In 2022, a team at Yale University published findings that rewrote the textbooks on photosynthesis. They wanted to know how purslane could thrive in extreme drought while growing faster than almost any other plant on the planet. Most plants use a system called C3 photosynthesis, which is efficient but requires plenty of water. Crops like corn use C4 photosynthesis to handle heat, while desert plants like cacti use CM photosynthesis. Cam plants are incredibly water efficient because they only open their pores at night, but this makes them grow very slowly. Scientists previously thought a plant had to choose one system or the other, or at least keep them in separate parts of the leaf. But the Yale team discovered that purslane does the impossible. It runs both C4 and CM systems in the same cells at the same time. It uses C4 during the day for rapid growth and CM at night for drought survival, with the products of the night reactions feeding directly into the daytime growth cycle. Dr. Erica Edwards described it as a superplant, a rare combination of traits found in no other species on Earth. It's like having a car engine that runs on gasoline and electricity simultaneously in the same combustion chamber. This is why purslane survives on just 1/5 of the water that corn needs and can grow in soil so salty it would kill most other crops in days. If purslane is a superplant with the power to save our health and survive a changing climate, why does the modern world treat it like an invasive enemy? The answer is largely economic. The global herbicide market hit $40 billion in 2024, and the biggest players in the industry, like Bayer, Syngenta, and Corteva, sell products specifically formulated to kill purslane in lawns and fields. We are using chemical weapons developed in World War II, like 2,4-D, to eradicate a food source that our ancestors cherished. Homeowners associations prohibit it, and agricultural extension offices publish guides on how to wipe it out. The reason for this war isn't because purslane damages the ecosystem. It's because it cannot be controlled. You cannot patent purslane. You cannot modify its seed coat to make it sterile, and you cannot force farmers to buy new hybrid seeds every year. It reproduces freely, producing up to 200,000 seeds per plant that can stay viable in the soil for 40 years. Every time a stem fragment touches the ground, it roots into a new plant. Because it grows for free in every climate zone where humans live, it threatens the controlled markets of omega-3 supplements and expensive farmed salmon. While the world's fish populations collapse and supplements cost $20 a bottle, this plant asks for nothing but sunlight and a little rain. While much of the West was taught to poison this plant, half the world never forgot its value. In India, it is known as kulfa and remains a beloved green. In Greece, it is glystrida. In Mexico, verdolagas, often sautéed with garlic and chili. In China, it has been continuously cultivated for thousands of years as machi xian. Across Turkey, Iran, and the Middle East, you will find it in mise spreads and summer salads. These cultures understand something we are just beginning to remember. Purslane is the ultimate survival insurance. As climate models project that our traditional crops will fail in semi-arid zones, purslane becomes even more important. Corn and wheat require 20 to 30 inches of annual rainfall, but purslane can complete its entire life cycle on just 6 inches. When temperatures rise above 95 degrees Fahrenheit, soybeans shut down their photosynthesis, but purslane actually accelerates. It thrives in the exact conditions that are predicted to cause a global food crisis. It's not just a weed, it's a bridge to a more resilient future. Stick with me, because in the final parts, I'm going to show you exactly how to identify it safely and the lazy way to harvest it so it keeps feeding you forever. Before you head out to your driveway to start harvesting, you must know exactly what you are looking for because safety in foraging is everything. Purslane, or Portulaca oleracea, has a very distinct look once you know the signs. Look for thick, succulent red stems that crawl flat along the ground in a circular pattern. The leaves are paddle-shaped, smooth, and fleshy, almost like a tiny jade plant. If you break a stem, it should be juicy and translucent inside, never milky. In the mornings, you might see tiny yellow flowers tucked between the leaves. However, there is a look-alike you must avoid called spurge. While purslane is smooth and juicy, spurge stems are usually thinner, often hairy, and most importantly, they leak a milky white sap when broken. That sap is toxic and can irritate your skin or stomach. Remember the golden rule. If the stem is hairy or the sap is milky, leave it alone. True purslane is smooth, red, and hairless. Once you've identified it, the lazy gardener's method is simple. Stop poisoning it. If it's in your garden or between your patio stones, let it be. It isn't competing with your vegetables. It's actually acting as a living mulch, shading the soil and keeping moisture in for your other plants. If you forget everything else we've talked about today, remember this. The most nutritious plants on Earth are often the ones we've been taught to destroy. You don't need a massive budget, a greenhouse, or a degree in agronomy to feed your family high-quality nutrients. You just need to recognize this super plant that is already trying to help you. To get started today, simply walk around your yard. Don't pull it, just observe it. If you decide to harvest, pick it in the first 6 weeks when the leaves are most tender. You can eat it raw for a lemony, salty crunch, sauté it like spinach, or even pickle it for the winter. Let a few of those plants go to seed. Since one plant can produce hundreds of thousands of seeds, you'll have enough to plant an entire survival plot or share with your neighbors. Every person who learns to recognize purslane is one more person who stops seeing food as something that only comes from a grocery store. It's a small step toward true self-sufficiency. Tell me in the comments, which of these facts surprised you the most? And are you going to let the purslane grow in your garden this year? If you want to see more on the hidden medicinal weeds hiding in your lawn, comment medicinal below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Nature's Lost Vault to help us preserve this ancient wisdom. The next vault opens soon.